I have a confession to make, Stacey. This is actually the first time I've seen the movie from beginning to end.
I knew it. I could hear his reactions. Like, he didn't watch this.
I kind of wanted to be here with you with a fresh impression of the movie. And I just have to say that it's an extraordinary film.
Oh, thank you.
There was a TV show that I watched a bit back in the 90s that was called Inside the Actors Studio. Some of you might remember that. There was a host by the name of James Lipton, and he would interview famous Hollywood actors. Anyways, I'd like to talk to you about the movie. And if it sounds like I'm pulling James Lipton impersonation, pardon me, I'm not trying to lampoon that show or anything like that. He's just kind of a role model for me in a way. But I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about your life experiences and how they ultimately led you to the film that we just saw. So tell me a little bit about where were you born? What was it like growing up?
So I was born in Hawaii in 1975. I'm fine with telling you how old I am since it gives you a better idea of how I came to this, like Stephen said. So I grew up in the 80s, so I'm a child of the 80s, and that was kind of like the heyday for these veterans, like Governor Ariyoshi was the first Japanese American governor of the United States. We had Senator Danny Noe, and Sparky was still in office. We had Patsy Mink in Congress. So, as a kid growing up, I had no idea that, this was not what the rest of the United States looked like. And, in the 80s, everything cool to a kid, at least, on TV was Japanese, right? I mean, Kikaido was a little bit before my time. I was really little, but it was still cool, and so my cousins, everyone knew who Kikaido was. And so, did you notice Kikaido in the movie? Yeah.
Did you have many members of your family or friends who served in the military?
My dad was a Vietnam vet, but they were all drafted, so it's not like they had to volunteer. But my uncle Cole Fukuda, my dad's uncle, was in the original 100th Battalion, and so he would tell me as a kid growing up, oh, Uncle Cole, he was a hero. They were in the one puka puka, they're the most highly decorated, and I'd be like, I'm a girl, I am 9, I don't care. This is ancient history, and so I think that was kind of how a lot of people felt at the time. It's human nature to take things for granted, I think. And if you don't know that anything was different, then how can you appreciate it, right? And so that's actually why I wanted to make the movie, because people, my age, we grew up with the vets kind of being around us, but, people growing up now, they had no, they don't know, right? Because the vets are gone. In fact, our PAs, they were like in their 20s, and a lot of them had never heard of the 100th or World War II.
So you're growing up, you get into high school, and you're taking a history class, and your teacher asked you to write an essay, I guess on any topic of your choosing, and you decided to write about Japanese Americans serving in the war?
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that because, so I wrote this as a sophomore about how the 100th Battalion, 442nd Regimental Combat Team, and what they did during World War II changed the socioeconomic status of Japanese in Hawaii. And I got an A, but I didn't remember writing this paper at all, actually. It wasn't until after I had written the comic book that I was at my parents' house, it was like Thanksgiving or something, and I was just kind of cleaning out all the stuff in my room, and I was like, hey, here's this paper. And so I had to take a picture of that and post it.
So at that time, was that kind of a turning point in your life, or was there something that happened later on where you kind of decided that you wanted to focus on this particular topic?
Well, I wouldn't say it was a turning point, but I guess, it was an indication or a marker that somewhere between age 9 and 15, I did realize, hey, what these guys did is pretty important to, it affected me and, everyone in my generation, whether we knew it or not.
And eventually you started to focus on the world of cinema and filmmaking. Could you tell us a little bit about how you developed your skills as a writer and as a producer?
That was rough. No, because I did not study film or anything. The film school which didn't exist yet until, I had been working on it for, I don't know. Well, I had started working on it. I think the school, came up in the early 2000s, but I had been working on it since 2001. Although, going back again through my old papers and school projects, I did realize that I had actually been cutting a lot of videos for group projects, instead of, because it was easier to tell stories through video, and I would be like directing my friends, like, okay, you're Persephone, you were like, telling these Greek myths or whatever, But yeah, it's kind of funny to see how those things, came back,
2001, can I ask about how old you were at that time?
Oh, I was young. I was like 25, 26.
Okay. And at that time, according to the preface of your book here, you said that you had in your words, the crazy idea to do a film about the members of the 100th and the 442nd. But you said there that the reason had something to do with tax credits. I know that all artists have a source of inspiration that motivates them, but that kind of surprised me that you said that. Could you tell us more?
Okay, so it wasn't for the tax credits, but it was because of the tax credits that I thought, oh, we could actually do this. So when I was in college, I had seen a play called The Heart Touch of Fire about the vets, and I was like, moved, like, wow, this is amazing how art can really make you feel like this story is yours, and it's very different from a documentary, which are good, obviously good things to watch, but a movie will put you into the shoes of the people that you're watching. They become your friends, like you feel like you know them, right? I hope you feel like you kind of know them. And so that's what I wanted to do. And so Act 221, I was a software engineer, and Act 221 was like this new thing that came into play with a lot of these IP industries, so like, alternative fuel or health or software. And then at the last minute, they tacked on film. So I thought, oh, we could do a movie. And, not knowing anything about making movies or how difficult or impossible it was to make a movie. Just being young and kind of stupid.
So the process of putting together this film took many, many years. And Fortunately, I got to know you along that path. It was 2013, and a friend of ours, Brady Evans, who actually worked here at the museum for several years in various roles. He's an artist himself. He produces manga and illustrations, and he wanted to spotlight the manga community here on Oahu. So he put together an exhibition called Crossing Cultures, The Art of Manga. The Art of Manga in Hawaii. And he put on that show at Gallery Iolani at Windward Community College, and the following year at the Japanese Cultural Center in Honolulu. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got to know Brady and your experience in that exhibition?
Yeah, so that was really cool. So Brady just contacted me on Facebook, and he was like, "Hey, I'm putting together this exhibit about Hawaii manga. Would you like to be a part of it?" And I was like, "Sure." And he came down to the clubhouse, and we talked about it, and that was really great for me because I didn't know anybody, in that community at all. Like, that's where I met them, except for maybe John Murakami, who I met before. But yeah, it was really a neat experience to see all the other stories being told and to meet everyone else.
And then let me flash forward about 4 years. It's Sunday, November 12th, 2017. We are at the Hawaii Theater at the final evening of the Hawaii International Film Festival. And the final film that they showed that year was Go for Broke. The world premiere of the film. Could you tell us how that felt after all of this? It must have been 16 years of preparation for that moment.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy experience as well. I mean, it was showing on maybe on as well. So it was closing night for HIF, and the Hawaii Theater holds 1,400 seats, and it had been sold out for a while. And so that line went around the block. And then they added a whole bunch of other screens at Dole, and so I think it played on a total of like 7 or 8 screens because it just kept on selling out. And well, when you say what was I doing, right before we showed it, we played it. I was actually worried about Bishop Fujitani because he had so. Let me back up a little bit. So about a month before it played at HIF, we showed it to all the veterans. So we rented out Hawaii Theater because I knew that, I wanted them to see it first, most of all, because, it's about them. It's for them. I did it for them. They're in it. They helped me write it. They're dear friends, really closer than family. And so the two vets, the VVV vets, Bishop Fujitani and Ted Tsukiyama, were actually not there at that sneak peek for the veterans. So, but they were able to make it, because Ted was sick and then Bishop Fujitani had fallen or something. But, so only Akira Otani was there. And so I was just like sad that they were not, how can you not see this, because they helped me so much along the way, and we would always meet for lunch, and they're like, how's it going? And I'd be like crying and telling them, but anyway, so we got Bishop Fujitani to his seat, and Ted was also there, so that was really, but it was really neat, when we got our cast and our crew, some of them came onto the stage, and they just wanted to take pictures of the crowd, because it was like, oh, this is what a sold-out crowd at Hawaii Theater looks like. Yeah, pretty surreal.
It must have been, and I don't know many people who have the perseverance to pull it off the way that you did. That is, and I should say that that was 5 years and 20 days ago. Here we are. This screening and this exhibition that we're doing here at the museum has a couple of milestones. The 5th year of the premiere at HIF, but also coming next February, next March, the 80th anniversary of the formation of the 442nd. Anyways, I feel really blessed to have this opportunity to commemorate this with you, and thank you for showing us your artwork in that way.